Good morning, everyone. We want to welcome you to our webinar today. We're excited to have Kevin Naughton with us from Innovia Consulting. Kevin is going to be presenting on Accounts Receivable, your guide to Accounts Receivable for Dynamics BC. And before I pass it over to Kevin to cover on this topic, I just want to remind you that we are recording this session and it will be posted to our on-demand webinar library for you to review and share with anyone. And if you do have any questions, we're going to do a couple different things. You can either type them into the questions box on the webinar control panel, or go ahead and raise your hand and we'll have you freely ask them as we go along during the session. And then we'll also have any last minute questions at the end of our session. So now I'm going to pass it on over to Kevin to kick off our presentation.
Thank you, Angie. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. My name is Kevin Naughton. I'm with Innovia Consulting. I've been in corporate finance for 20 years, and I've been with Innovia for a little over a year now, but excited to go through Accounts Receivable 101 for Business Central. That's me. If anyone wants to take down my contact information, be happy to follow up question or anything after this at a later date. I'm happy to help out.
Kevin, your
Yes.
slide did not advance. There it goes. Okay.
Okay, so I'll give you guys an extra second then. If anyone does want to reach out after this for any follow-up questions, I'm happy to help out with accounts receivable. If there's something we covered in this topic today that you need clarification on, or something more advanced, we can discuss that as well. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to get into sales invoicing. There's a lot of different ways to invoice through sales for AR. We're going to hit briefly on all these different types and see what might be options for you and your company. We're going to look at payment receipts, the ways to receive payments, how they're applied, how to unapply them, and then we're going to also look at credit memos for if there ever does happen to be mistakes, go back and create credit memos. And then we're also going to look at customer statements. There's a couple different reports that are key, either just a standard aging report or a little bit more detailed statistics, or just a statement. So that's what we're going to look at today. So let's get started on our sales invoices. So this is our demo company, and as I said, there is a lot of ways to create invoices for customers, and you can either go through a sales order that's done by a customer service rep or whoever it might be, and they would ship it, and then you can invoice it. You can do a shipping and invoice directly from the sales order, or we'll go through, you can create a sales invoice from scratch, and that is either to bring in multiple shipments or just to create something that is not associated with an item. So first off, we're going to create a sales order. So we're going to go, we have some sales orders out there. We're going to create an invoice from the sales order. So let's just pick one of these sales orders right here. And as you can see, we have a pretty basic sales order with, we're shipping 10 of these desks. And let's go ahead and show you how that works to ship and invoice. So either you get from your shipping department or from customer service ready to ship, and we go ahead and post this, and there's multiple ways to post. Just straight posting this would create a shipment and an invoice. You can post and create a new one if you're doing batch job and you want to keep going down the line. You can post, invoice, and keep moving through if your AR representative is doing that. You can post and send, which is pretty typical as well, where it sends the email to the email associated with the sales invoice and this customer. And then you can also just preview the posting. This just shows you what it will look like before you do that. So today we're just going to use post, and I can show you how to work through the post and send later on. So as I had mentioned, there's ship, there's invoice, and there's ship and invoice. So shipping is obviously just shipping the parts out and creates a shipping doc. Invoicing is if something has been shipped, you come back and create an invoice at a later date if there's a segregation of duties, or if it's just the way someone in the shipping department can ships it and brings the shipping docs up to either accounts receivable or whoever might be doing the invoice, or if it is one person, you can do ship and invoice. So this is the selection we're going to look at right now for this one. So we select OK, and then this is a dialog box that says, do you want to look at the invoice? So for this, we will take a peek at the invoice, see what we're working with. So this is our posted sales invoice, and this is it's what the sales order was. It printed it up. It's exactly what it is from the sales order. And from here, you can do a couple different things. You can reprint it if you need to. You can save it as a PDF. You can email it if you'd like, send it. There you can look at the statistics of the invoice. I'll just kind of show you quickly. Here is some of the details of the invoice. You can look at the amount, the taxes, a little bit further breakdown of taxes down here. So you can see the different percentages for Georgia, the county and the state, county, and municipality. We'll give you a breakdown of the taxes. And you can also look at the profit margin. So if anyone related to AR or finance is looking at your invoicing and looking at profits, this is a nice little easy way to look at it. And then down here, this just gives you an overall overview of the customer, the balance they have, where they're out of their credit limit, and the credit limit in total. So those are some statistics here. And then we'll get into it later, but you can create credit memos directly from here or make changes to this invoice if you need to. So that's a basic way to invoice directly from the sales order. Okay, and that sales order has been removed. So now if we have this particular one, you can see it says amount shipped, not invoiced, this $2,000 here, and I will go into the sales order. So this would be if there is a segregation of duties, and if you have different people doing shipping and invoicing. I suppose it could be if it's a different time of day, if someone does all the same person's doing all the shipping from their docs and then does the invoicing at a later time. So this one has been received, and the way to tell, separate from this screen, this is the list of the sales order. So if you're in the sales order, I'll show you the way to tell. We go down to the lines, and we scroll over to the right, and we can see over here there is a quantity to ship, quantity shipped, quantity to invoice, and quantity invoice. And if nothing's been shipped yet, obviously this would say 2 for the quantity to ship, and then quantity to invoice. But 2 of these have been shipped already. So what we need to do, this is a ship not invoice, we need to invoice this particular line. So we'll go ahead and we're going to post this as well, but this time we're just going to hit invoice. Same thing, invoice has been posted. Same information we can look at throughout the invoice, resend it, whatever we need to do, email it. But now that's a different way to invoice. So let's take a look at another way to invoice. So if you're not doing sales orders, and if you're not doing segregation of duties, and you just want to create a sales invoice, you of course can do that. So that's here under sales, from the sales menu, sales invoice. Okay, and let's create a new sales invoice. We can enter our customer. Most of the information is filled out. Document date, posting date for sales invoice typically is the same date, but if it can be different if you need to. Due date is automatically calculated based on the terms set up on the customer. If there's an external document number, if there's a customer PO, that would go here. This is of course the salesperson, and then any user IDs that need to be set up. So you can create an invoice just directly from here. If you need to, we can enter items as such, and we can post same way. So this does give you the breakdown of the taxes in this invoice, the total, the line total with the taxes and the total for the invoice. You can see the terms down here, the shipment date, any payment discounts, the shipping information is all in the invoice, and this way this is done if there is no sales order. So if it's just for some reason you don't have a sales order, AR person, customer service person, who's ever actually going through the invoicing, just creates an invoice straight from here. And we'll go through a couple different reasons why you might do that at a later date or a later time today. So this is the same information. You can obviously preview the posting. You can just to see what it looks like. This will give you the entries that will be made, the customer ledger, item ledger, taxes, and value entries. You can post it, post new, post send, same information. So we're just going to go ahead and post that. And if we want to bring to the invoice, it comes back to the same posted sales invoice. It looks exactly the same as whether the invoice comes from a sales invoice or comes from a sales order. So that once you get to this posted sales invoice, it's the same. And I'll kind of go through that. So from the sales menu, if you're looking at posted sales invoice listing, click right here. These are the sales invoices that we've been looking at, and you can see they all come in. This is whether we come from, these are the few that we've just done, whether they come from a sales order or sales invoice. These are all posted sales invoices. So it's the same wherever it comes from. It's just the starting point of how to get here. So let's go back to the sales orders. And let's go into this one. So now we have these two invoices or these two lines on this invoice, and we have them yet to be shipped. So let's just show how a partial shipment on an invoice can work. So we can go ahead and post, and we're just going to we're going to change this quantity to ship right here. So we're not going to ship in full. We're going to make this 7 and this 2. So we're going to post this, and instead of shipping and invoicing, we're just going to ship. And you can see here, now this reverts back to 3 and 3, quantity left to ship, quantity shipped is 7 and 2. So now we have a partial shipment out there. So we have left to invoice of quantity 10 and a quantity of 5. So we don't want to obviously invoice, it won't even allow you to. If you try to post the full amount, it won't allow you to because it's only got 10 and 5. So from here, you can still ship an invoice. You could ship the remaining 3 and invoice all 10 or all 5. But for this exercise, we're just going to post, but we have to change this amount. So if you want, this column right here will be what you plan to invoice. So we will have to change this to 7 and 2. And then we'll post. And if we are on this screen, if we selected ship and invoice, it would ship the remaining amount and invoice in full. So we have to just invoice what we're looking to invoice right now. So as you can see on this one, we have a partial of 7 have been invoiced and 7 have been shipped. So we still have 3 left on both lines, and that's how we're ready to go. Let's look at one of these. So we still have this order still open. It's still in our listed in our sales order list because it has not been fully complete. So you can see here it's shipped complete. No. So there's more to be done here. But once we do completely ship and invoice this, I will go in and show you, it does get removed from the list. All right, so that order has been removed. Okay, so let's look again at these posted sales invoices. And in here, so we have this in this menu, Actions Navigate menu. This goes through and shows you what the entries that have made. So if you ever need to go back and look at the GL, for example, or the tax entries, for example, what happened from this invoice? Do a little research from an AR standpoint. What happened in this GL? it's right here. So you click on that, there's 9 entries for this one. Obviously cost of goods, this is the sales. We're looking here at some of the tax payables and then some of the AR, inventory and AR. So this gives you an overview of what the amount is and what the GL account is. Okay, so let's now look if we have to, the reasons, and I'm just real quick, sales orders, invoicing from a sales order is very easy. As you saw, you can ship, you can invoice, ship an invoice from right there. Sales invoice, you don't have the sales order, but the one reason that someone would use a sales order is if you want to have multiple orders, but a single invoice. So customer, say, has a few POs into you and you want to invoice one invoice for multiple POs. How we would do that is we create shipments for their sales orders, and then we'll create a sales invoice and pull these in. So we're going to go through that right now. So let's take a couple of our sales orders. Let's take this one, and we're just going to ship it. We're not going to invoice it. And then we are going to go to the next one here, and we're going to ship it as well. Okay. So as you can see, we have 2 sales orders here that have been completely shipped. They have amounts shipped on invoice. Now, the customer wants one invoice for these 2. They don't want 2 separate invoices. They want one. So we can't, from this sales order screen, if we invoice, it'll create 2 invoices. So we need to create a sales invoice, create a new one, and we select our customer that we're working with. And there's a couple ways of going about this. First, you could go through, create each line for the amounts that we want, and you can reference the sales order. But the easiest, best way to do this is go down the lines and hit line, function, and let's get the shipment lines. We created 2 shipments for 2 different orders. We can go, and here are our 2 shipments. So we click on the ellipses here, sideways ellipsis, and you select more and select more, and you hit OK. And as you can see, that brings in what we shipped on those other 2 receipts. And it gives you even it creates a comment line for the shipments. And then it brings in the item information from the original sales order. So now you have, this is one invoice for the 2 sales orders that the customer gets their one invoice for their multiple. So it's just the way to do that. So now we can post as normal. If we want to look at it, we can, but this is the invoice. So it's pretty straightforward way of doing it. So you create multiple sales orders on one invoice. You create the invoice separately, bring in the customer, and bring in the sales line, shipment lines. Okay, so now we're going to look at item charges. So let's go into let's create a new sales invoice. And this is something like freight, for example. So sometimes you don't know what the freight is until you ship it, so it might be done at a later date. Sometimes it's done by a different person. So we're just going to create 2 of these desks are being shipped. And then when you're creating these sales invoices, there's a lot of couple different options you can put. You can put comments. We can look at a GL account. We can do items, resources, which is typically like service hours. Obviously, if we need to sell a fixed asset, you can do that. And then charge items. So this charge item we're going to work with now, and you can set these up for different types of charge items. And you can see we have a few here. Restocking charge if you have to apply that to a customer, or but we're just today going to use freight or some sort of sales allowance. And you can set these up for whatever you need. So we're going to do $75 in freight. So the only thing that you have to do on this is, and you know what, let me create a new line here. We're going to do 2 different parts. So we have 2 lines on this. and then we want this freight, the $75. So there are ways to look at this, and if you're doing margins based on items or any sort of analysis, you might not want this freight to be just given in total. You might want this freight to go to this particular piece, this freight to go to split evenly between these two line items. So we have to assign the freight. So we're going to click this 0 here where it says quantity to assign. So we have our $75 that we have to split. So what you do on this is we have to decide on how we want to split this. And what you do, you select item charge, suggest item charge assignment. And then you have these 4 options. You can split the $75 equally. You can split it by amount, whereas the $10,000 item gets more than the $100 item. You can do it by weight. So if it's shipping, if you have weights assigned to on the item card, you can do that. Or if you want to do it by size, where you have dimensions in the item card, it can split it accordingly. So we're just going to select OK, do it this. And as you see, it spreads up based on the percentage of the dollar amounts of 61% and 39%. It's been assigned, click OK. And so future, if anyone's looking at margins, they will see the spread of the $75 just doesn't get blended to the whole, it gets assigned accordingly. So we will post this. Okay, so that's how we charge items, item charges like freight or allowances or restocking fees. So so you have our invoices. We've created our invoices. If you need to resend it, we talked about that, but we'll just kind of go look at our posted sales invoices. We want to resend any of these, you can just go into these posted invoices. You have all the options to resend, print it up, do whatever you might need from there. So let's talk a little bit about, you can see right here, you can resend from here. You can send an email, you can print it up, save it as a PDF, whatever you might need to do. So from this screen, we have our posted sales invoice. We can do a couple different things. We can, in the correct section, you can correct, cancel, or create a credit memo. Correct is obviously if you just need to make a internal adjustment to something that's there was a mistake, either the dollar amount or quantity, or I mean quantity, you should do a credit memo, but or if you need to change a comment or something on the item that where the customer doesn't require a credit memo, you can just do a quick correction. Cancel, of course, is pretty self-explanatory. It cancels the invoice. But if you want to create a credit memo, you can do it right from this screen. You can click create credit memo, and it will create a credit memo based on, it pulls in the information, it tells you the comments, it selects 2 comments that are inserted. One is the invoice and one is the invoice and the shipment number. You, of course, can delete these comments if you need. If the customer doesn't need to see this or you just don't want them on there, you can delete the comments. You can still, from here as well, if it's only a credit memo for not the same amount, you're only returning one of these, you can do that as well, and it changes the value. So this creates a credit memo. And then all you do from this is you post. And like before, you can post and send, and this would send an email to whoever this email set up on the customer card, preview it, or you can just post. You can go look at the credit memo. And here it is. It shows a credit to the customer. If you need to, again, resend anything or print it up, you can from here as well. So just like before, if you want to create multiple one credit memo for multiple invoices, you can do that as well. It's just slightly different. You go through that. Go to sales credit memo list. We don't have any open, so we're going to create a new one. Okay, so from here, you can again, if you want to create the individual lines for each different sales order, but there's a way to just grab it. You can select prepare get posted documents to reverse. And this brings up a screen. So this is for our customer, Relic Cloud, and this has all their posted sales invoices that we can bring in. So from this screen, we can actually just select multiple. You can, if you know what it is, a specific invoice number, you can filter here, and you can start typing in what you want, whatever invoice it is. You can actually just pull up the invoice list from this screen as well, from the ellipsis, and see what you need if you need more information. For this, we'll just select the first two. Oh, I selected two that were already returned. So you can see, brought this particular one in. You can, if you need to grab more, you can as well. There's other ones, you know, grab another one as well. You can pull them in, and what it does is it creates, again, the comments to show you which line it is, pull in items, and this has one credit memo for multiple credit orders, sales orders. So it's just a way to have less paperwork to the customer. If this is something the customer requires, this is how you do it. It's a little easier, of course, if you're doing one, to just go to the invoice and select correct credit memo, create correction credit memo. But if you have more than one, this is how you do it. And then, of course, you just post as such. No, we don't need to go to it. Okay, so from now we've kind of shown multiple ways to create invoices from sales orders, create an invoice with freight, create a single invoice from multiple sales orders, and then the same for credit memos. So are there any questions on that so far? You can raise your hand.
Just so you know, Kevin, none have come through.
Okay. So what we're going to look at now is receiving payments. We've sent our invoices out to our customer, and they're happy, so they're going to send us payments. So from here, we'll do the search menu, and just kind of a little quick tip if anyone is using BC already. If you hit Alt-Q, it brings this up for those of you who do like keyboard shortcuts. I'm one of them. And then we're going to go to Cash Receipt Journal. Also, you don't have to search in total for the full. I think it's like a 70% match. So I think that's, you don't have to type in the full if you're ever searching. Another quick tip. So we're going to go to our Cash Receipts Journal, and you can have multiple batches, and you can set them up if you want them to go to different bank accounts, different GL accounts. You can have them set up automatically. We only have one in this test company, but you can set up as much as you want, have them go to different posting groups, different bank accounts if you need to. And when you come through and receive the payments, this is where you go through the selection screen. So we're gonna say we collected a payment, document type. You can see there's various different kinds, but for this, we're just gonna go payment. There's refunds, there's credit memos, whatever. But for document number is typically the check number, or if there's a wire confirmation number, or anything from the customer, this is where you'd put that. And then under account type, this is a customer payment. We're gonna select customer, and then you can select which customer it is. We've been working with this customer. And when you receive payments, just like invoicing, there's multiple ways to do this. So if you're just getting a check or a payment that isn't applied to anything, you can go through and I'll actually show you how to do that. You can just create, it's a negative. So if they just send you $500 and there's no remittance, you don't know what it's for, you can just take that $500 and you can post that. That's okay. And that'll just go to their account, and I'll show you how to apply that later if we have at a later date. But if they do send you a check and there's a remittance, or it's a wire with a remittance and you know what it's for, there are ways of doing that as well, of course. There's a couple different ways. So if they're paying off a single invoice, the quickest way to do that is to come over to Applies to Document Number. You select, and you select which invoice they're paying off. You can see our payment that we put up here, that $500 payment that we just received. You can see it's just sitting out there. So we'll apply that later. So, but they paid off this particular invoice. So let's just select this invoice, select, well, it's $2 one. So let's get this one. Select OK. And it pulls in the amount for you. It shows you're paying off an invoice, and it this invoice 10318, and it's pretty straightforward. And if you haven't, you can keep adding lines down this for a different customer. If you're getting a group of checks, so on and so forth, you can do this down the line for each customer, each check that you receive. So we're going to go ahead and post this. And that was that particular invoice has been paid off. So of course, they usually, customers send checks that pay off more than one invoice. So we'll look into that as well. So customer 50,000. So instead of putting the number here, and when you do select this applies to doc, it only is for a single invoice at a time. So it won't allow you to select more from this screen. So to do that, you have to hit process, apply entries. And you can, one way to do this is you can select this 3 dots here, you can hit select more, and you can hit the invoices that they paid off. And so what that does is that selects the invoices that they're paying off. So you either find the invoices, search for the invoices. You can also filter here to, if you need to do a search, and you type in the invoice number that you have, or you can sort this however you want to do it. But then you select the highlight invoices that you need to pay off, and you select application set applies to ID, and this will put the check number of the document that these items are paying off. So you can see paying off these 3 items, total of the check number is right here, okay? And as another kind of way to do this, just as a kind of a balance check, if you know you're getting a check for, I don't know, I forget, for that amount, let's just say that's what the check is for, and you apply the entries, it brings in the check amount. And then, sorry, I had a little off, but, and then so what it does is you can see once you set the applies to ID, it shows you they paid $60.48 versus an invoice of $60.85, so they're 37 cents short. And I'll show you the payment discount tolerances where you can set the tolerances to say that's okay, we can write this off, or you are going to keep it open to be collected. But if you put the amount here first, then it gives you that balance available to work with. You see this 1060.48. So you can select OK, and then there's a warning saying, what do you want to do? Would you like to, you can set up the warning to come up so the customer has or the customer service rep or AR, whoever's doing this, has the option to either leave the remaining amount open or post the balance as a payment tolerance. It's however you want to do it, and then you can see the details of what we're looking at here. So then we go ahead and we can post this. Okay, so those are multiple ways to receive payments. There is other ways to do this, and it's just kind of a matter of preference. If you get either wires in, a group of wires for the day, or ACHs, or you get a stack of checks and you want to go through it this way, this is fine. Some people I've also seen like to do this. This is all I'll show you as well. Register customer payments. This is another, this is all the open invoices currently right now in the system. And you can, of course, search, you can sort by customer, sort by invoice number, sort by due date, sort by amount, whatever you want. You can search specific invoice numbers if you know. But this way is a little less typing. It's once you find the invoice, it's a little easier. So you see these, all you do for this is you literally click, and that's it. Now you can put in the check number if it's a check number. And that's all you do. And it gives you the totals here of what's being paid and the remaining amount. So, and of course, if you short pay, you can change this amount as well, and it'll leave the remaining balance open. So we can post this. And those two items came off the list. So any questions on the multiple ways of payments?
Not as of yet, Kevin.
So we're good on the items or the cash payments. So this is how we apply the payments, and we're going to go look at how that application was made to the customer. So let's take a look at our customer. So we have this is everything the balances for the customer. We're going to look at our history, our ledger entries, our customer ledger entries. So we're going to click Navigate History, Ledger Entries, and this is everything for the customer. It'll be all their invoices, the payments, the credit memos. This is everything. And you can see we made a bunch of payments just now. We created some credit memos, and we created a lot of invoices for these. And you can see here's the remaining amount, and here's what's still open for some of these invoices. So what we're going to do on this is we're going to take that $500 here, and we are going to apply the payments. So we're going to take that $500 and we're going to apply it to one of these invoices. So it's actions, functions, apply entries. Okay, and then here's the open invoices that we show open. This is the only things that are open. So we're going to take this, just apply it against this invoice. And it's the same thing as before. Actions, application, set applies to ID. It's just doing it at a later time. It's the same screen from the cash receipts journal where you apply the ID to the payment. You're just doing it at a later time because the payment was made, posted, it was an unapplied payment. Now we're going to apply it. The only difference is instead of a check, it'll show my name because I'm doing this after the fact. So, and then you can't just hit close here. You have to post this. And then here's where you put in your check number if need be. It remembers it from the first time we did it. Hit OK. And then you can see this remaining amount of the payment is cleared, and the invoice has been moved as well. So we have some of our payments, and what we can actually do from this as well is if we misapplied a payment, you can actually just unapply an entry. So let me show you where that was again. Sorry. So you select your payment that you need to unapply. You select the line, hit Actions, Functions, Unapply Entries. And you have this, here's the payment, here's the invoice that it paid off. You can make sure everything's fine. You need to change the posting date if it's a different date. You can also preview what you're going to do, but you can also just unapply. You sure you want to unapply? Yes. Okay. Now we're showing this as open again. So this is now showing this payment as open, and so is the invoice right here. So, and if we need to apply that, reapply that, we can. Same, apply it to a different entry, and this is how you can apply this. Just go on, so forth. activation, set applies to ID, post it, and it's reapplied again. And you can see the payment, there's nothing left to be applied. So anybody have any questions on payments, applying payments, receiving payments, anything along those lines?
Remember, you can either raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can ask them, or you can type that into the questions box. Your choice.
Okay, so if not, I'll move on. And one of the things that we talked about briefly was the payment tolerances. And so I'll show you quickly where you can set that up. So it's in the general ledger setup. And here's the full general ledger, of course, but down here in an application, you can see the, this is the tolerance for, the setup for the tolerance. And you saw that we had that warning pop up when we were applying it was short 37 cents for the payment application. This is where that is. If you want to turn that warning off, you don't want to give the people a choice, just have it do something, that's fine. You can turn it on, turn it off. And this is rounding, of course, if you want to, apply a payment for a rounding precision. We don't have that set up, but and this is for discounts, of course, or payment tolerance. This is the discount, and this is the tolerance. Discount, obviously, grace period. So if they have a 10-day discount, but you want to give them 2 extra days, you can just put 2 days here, and it just adds the grace period to their discount date. This payment tolerance here, this is a percentage. That's not 10%, that's 0.01%. So if you want 10%, you put 10. And then the max payment tolerance amount is $1. So in this example, if 1/10 of 1% is $1.50, it won't allow the tolerance because you only allow $1. Yeah, and then so you can change that. I'll show you how to change it because you can see this box is grayed out. You can actions, functions, change payment tolerance, and this is where you can go through, and you can do it for separate currencies. If there's a currency tolerance, you can have that, of course. But this is where you just change it to 1%, $10, or however you want to do it. This is where you make that change. So this is where you make that tolerance, and it allows you to, of course, the warning, if you bring up the warning, it gives the people the option to either write it off or leave it open. If not, it just does what you automatically assign it to do. And then you can assign general ledger accounts to that, where if you set up general posting, there is the payment discount tolerance, where you want the debits and the credits to go. So if you do have the setup to automatically go somewhere in your chart of accounts, you just select which specific account you have it go to in this general posting setup. So we also talked about customers, and let's just go back and look at some customers, some of the things that we can get from customers. Obviously, we're going to need to pull agings. We need to pull statistics, and we're going to show you how to do that right now. So on this Relic Cloud customer that we've been working with, you can see just in the general customer card, there's some things that are just right off the bat what you're looking for. Obviously, profit, sales, and profit, but you can see the balance here, balance due. So this is due to the credit memos and all the payments we've been throwing out there. But if you just pull up the balance here, this is $23,000, this is what they owe. And we're going to click on that. And this is the item ledger, the customer ledger entries filtered for what's open. So we looked earlier at the item ledger or the customer ledger entries that had everything. This is only things with a remaining amount. So you can see here. And what this red is things that are past due. So the black is not yet due, red is past due. So this shows you, if you ever need to, for reference, what you need to get at from here. And actually, you can apply payments if need be. If this payment needed to be applied somewhere, we could do that right from here, this screen as well. Okay. There are some little statistics over here, balance outstanding orders that you can look at. The credit limit, they don't have one. This customer isn't set up for one, but this does give you some statistics. And there's a little bit more statistics right in this report. So this is the generic base reports for NAV. And of course, the first one being the aging. And it's pretty straightforward. It goes through the last options you use. This just tell you, hey, do you want the same filters? And if you select that the last time you ran it, it'll bring it in. We can change the date. Another little tip for anybody who is using to change the date to today, you can just hit T and tab, and it will change the date to today. So another tip for you. And then there's three options when you're doing the aging. You want to do it by the transaction date, the document date, or the due date. Pretty self-explanatory what they are. Transaction date is going to be the posting date. As we said, typically it's the same as the document date, but not always. So we're just going to leave it as such. This is 30 days if you want how you want the aging to show. And if you want it overdue by, you'd have to change it to based on the due date. And then if you want this to show in their currency, if you want to just show the overdue customers, if you want this to go to Excel, of course, and then detail. If you don't have this detail on, it just shows literally the customer and the totals for the buckets, the date buckets. But if you put the detail on, it'll actually show you the invoices as well. You can set up customer groups to run multiple customers at a time. You can run it for just sales reps if sales reps can run their own, or you can run it for them, send it to them, or different customer groups. And then you can, of course, send this to PDF, Word, or Excel. And I know it says Excel here. Oops, sorry. But definitely, if you do it to Excel, definitely print to Excel like this before you hit print to Excel, because it doesn't format correctly. So if you do need to bring these to Excel, you're going to want to click this first. We're just going to preview this, of course. And this is what the aging looks like. Zoom in a little bit. And as you can see, it just shows the dates, balances, and it goes into the 30-day buckets that we had set up. It's pretty standard aging report, but this is good if you need to send an aging customer real quick. You can do that. You can download it, print it up, whatever you need to. Let's look at the item statistics. So the report in the item statistics, same kind of thing. If you need to bring these to Excel, if you're running multiple accounts, whether it's by if you set up the customer posting groups, or if you are actually selecting multiple customers, new page per account is obviously each customer gets their own page, and so it's a section. And then if you want to do a specific date range, you can do that. We're just going to do, and then of course the same options here. And then these are some of the statistics. The amounts, it gives you the margins, it gives you the margin percentage margins, what they've sold, the per item. So if you need to do any sort of analysis on the items for the customer, this is where that will be located. And then sometimes you also need, of course, a statement. And that's pretty straightforward. Customer statement here. You can run this. Let's see, show overdue entries, of course, if you just want to show what's overdue, not everything. If you want to only show the customers if there's a ledger entry or with a balance. Now, the balance means they have something outstanding. Ledger entries means you've ever done anything with them. If they had one invoice and paid it off, if you select this on, it'll show. And of course, reversing, this is all pretty straightforward. And we're going to take a look at this statement and see what this looks like. And it comes down here, prints it up in Word. A little bit easier to send out to customers. And then this is what the statement looks like. And it's a little bit prettier way to send to the customers of what they're looking for. So does anybody have any questions on that so far?
Not yet, Kevin.
Okay. All right, and then we did talk about the emails. So we're gonna quickly delve into that a little bit. So when you have the customer invoices, the statements, whatever you might be, you can have more than one email. Here is on the customer card, there is an email, the default email associated with this customer, but you can set up multiple emails for different documents. So you can see here's a quote, information, credit memos, invoices, customer statements, whatever you might want to do. So if you want all invoices to go to, you can send it from contacts. You can actually just
Kevin, I think I lost you again. There you are.
see, yep. So sorry about that. So you can just type in emails. You can do it as such, and you can add them directly from here. And as well, if you need to, you can do the semicolon and add multiple email addresses. And this would send, so when you do an invoice, this is where it would automatically go. And you can have it set up for confirmation orders, for credit memos, go to different people, statements, go to different people. So I'm gonna close out of that. So that is where you set that up. And then again is navigate customer document layouts. And of course, before you do this, you do have to have your email set up within Nav. And I will just kind of quickly show you how to do that. Otherwise, it won't. So this assisted setup is a really quick and easy way to set up some of the more basic items in Nav. So you can see right here, set up email. You click on this, and you just kind of walk through the tutorial. And you select your provider. And then I won't go through it, but you just put in your user ID and password and hits finish. You're good to go. It links up with your Office 365, or as you saw, you can do Outlook or whatever email, Google, whatever you're using. You put this information in, and it has a send from basically. So you have to set that up before you go through the emailing of customer documents. And so I don't know if we have time. Maybe we'll hit prepayments briefly here, unless anyone has any questions. We're getting to the end of the session here. So does anybody have any questions?
I think you're covering the material quite well. No one's got any questions.
So I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of prepayments, because that is something that does get brought up. It's not more of a 101, but that's okay. We'll take a look at it. So we're going to create a new sales order. And when you do prepayments, it has to be from a sales order. It can't be from the sales invoice. So what we looked at earlier, going through the sales invoicing, and we looked at the sales orders and invoicing from there. If you're doing prepayments, it has to be through the sales order. So we're shipping a lot of these desks today. And then down here, there's a section for prepayments. And of course, you can go through the discount date for this, the specific prepayment terms. And then here's where you put the prepayment percentage. So if you need 50% down, you put 50. If you need 100% down, you put 100. And it'll say, do you want to update the lines? Of course. So what this is stating, if someone does try to ship this or try to do anything with this, it won't allow it. So you try to release, it says there are unposted prepayments of this document. So it won't allow you to release this order. It won't allow you to ship it. It won't allow you to do anything because we have a 100% prepayment. So what you obviously, of course, need to send a prepayment invoice for this. So in Actions, you go to Actions, Posting, Prepayment, Post Prepayment Invoice, okay? And this, you of course can post and print if you want to send to the customer, credit memos, of course, and you can test it and preview it. But we're just going to post for this. I'm not sending it to anybody. So what this will do is create a prepayment, and you can see now the status of this order is pending prepayment. So this is where And I can do this kind of quickly just to give you a. So again, it's still in that pending status. It won't allow you to do anything. And you can see here, this is our prepayment invoice. This selection right here, it says prepayment invoice for the orders, for the sales order, yada, yada. And we select OK. We received our payment. We're going to post. Yes. Go back to, now we can just refresh this. And if you, for those keyboard shortcut people, you can hit F5 for the request, the refresh. You can see prepayment. Did I not apply it to the right one? Oh, okay, I must not have applied it to the right one. But that's how you, that is how you go through it. I must have selected the wrong. There was more than one. But so you would go through and if you, once this is, the prepayment is posted, I thought there's only one. Okay. So if this is the case, then you can just release it. If I did do it the proper one. All right. So I did. So you hit release there, you see, and once it, because it had the prepayment, hit released, and now the order's ready to go. So you'd hit the release, release. So that is how you do a prepayment. Once we got the payment journal, cash journal entry, it applied against here, and then you can release the order, and now you can post as normal if you need to. You could ship it, you can send it, do whatever you need, ship an invoice. But it won't let you get to this released status until you have a payment, and if you select prepayment on, and you can't do anything unless it's in release status anyway. So we don't need to open this. And I think that's, we're running out of time, so that's AR 101. I think we kind of covered a lot and went a little quickly, but we do have the recording, and I can actually just put up my email if you need. If anyone wants to ask any questions, any follow-ups, how to do anything that we didn't cover today, feel free. But unless there's any other questions, I do thank you for your time.
All right, Kevin, thank you. No questions have come through. Perhaps we could follow up and do a continued webinar on this topic if anyone is interested, if there's a need.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you, Kevin, for presenting, and for everyone who was on our webinar today, or if you're watching on demand, we thank you for joining us. I just want to mention to you that we do have more webinars coming soon. This Thursday, we have Jason Warren from Avalara, and he's going to be presenting to us the latest on Avalara Tax, how to automate. And next Tuesday, we have Chad Williams from Innovia Consulting, and he's going to be presenting on his Part 2 webinar of Explore the Possibilities with Power Apps. So check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's innovia.com/events. And Innovia has a podcast that is going on. If you have not heard of it already, it's called the Innovia Conversation. And we just want to encourage you to listen to our selection that Steve Waltz and Jeff Pergolski have provided to us. And you can find out about all the different podcast platforms to listen to on our podcast page. And that's innovia.com/podcast. So check out the selection and subscribe so you'll be notified when those new episodes air. And Innovia Consulting is proud to be a premier sponsor of Community Summit, which is now a virtual event, October 7th through the 9th. Summit is the annual gathering for all NAV and Business Central users and supporters. And this event is full of great sessions to help develop leadership skills, improve NAV BC skills, and so much more. So check out our conference page, and that's innovia.com/conferences for more details and to save on your summit registration. All right, everyone. Well, we thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on another Innovia webinar.